Zimbabwe, and welcome to Transformation Markers with me, Yvonne. Today we want to talk about a subject that many of us continue to ask: where is Zimbabwe among the family of nations? On this program, we've invited Honorable Tracy Mutinhiri, the MDC Secretary for International Relations, to tell us more about where we are. Honorable Mutinhiri, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on Transformation Markers.
I'm happy to join you today.
Okay. We want to talk about Zimbabwe's international relations policy. We understand that the ZANU-PF government has in the past adopted a look east policy. And right now we see that they are globetrotting and talking to anyone who can come to the aid of Zimbabwe. What is it that this nation needs in order for us to get back among the family of nations?
Oh, thank you for your question, Yvonne. The MDC party is a party that respects good governance, human rights, and as a party, our policy is to look to countries that respect human rights and good governance, and we are in the process of engaging all our friends around the world. And as you know, the world has become a global village. But even if it's a global village, we will be selective in our engagement. We are looking to countries that respect people's rights, that respects human rights, that have got a history of good governance. Yes.
Okay, we're just coming out of an election in which the election was stolen, according to the MDC. Now, what is your take on the EU report on this particular election?
Thank you for your question, Yvonne. Yes, certainly it is true that the election was stolen. From the statistics that we have, our President Chamisa has been talking about the stolen election. The people of Zimbabwe are talking about the stolen election, and the environment and what is happening on the ground is just proving that the election was stolen. And we are happy that the EU observers are just benchmarking and confirming what the MDC and the President and our leader, President Chamisa, has just been telling the world and the nation that the election was stolen. And it's everybody. People came out in their numbers to vote for change. And a few days after, they were so heartbroken to hear that their vote was stolen.
Mm-hmm. And so we saw the August 1 incident happening. And right now we have a commission of inquiry that includes members from the SADC region or the AU in general. Are you impressed, or what should be your comment? What is the comment of the MDC in terms of what this commission has and is doing right now?
As the MDC family, we believe that this commission is a first commission, because it includes people who are compromised. A person like Professor Manyaruke, I know well that she's a member of the Women's League of ZANU-PF. Bimbai Nyemba, we don't know what she is doing there, because of late we've seen her being identified with ZANU-PF activities. And also Professor Maduku, we don't really understand what he stands for.
And let's talk about the issue of legitimacy. Zimbabwe's crisis has been defined by others as a crisis of legitimacy. We've seen the United States of America slapping Zimbabwe with the Zidara. Can we have a comment on that?
Yeah, we have a problem in Zimbabwe. Legitimacy has been behind Zimbabwe for a number of elections now, if you can remember. Mm-hmm. Since Edgar Tekere, since Zoom led by Margaret Dongo, people have talked about a disputed election. Until Morgan Trankira, unfortunately, our late icon, also entered into the race of politics, and we still remain with disputed elections, which is an issue that is going to continue to hinder the development of Zimbabwe. Even it's going to continue to keep Zimbabwe being an unstable country, a pariah state where no good investor can come and invest in an unstable country.
Okay, and we had situations, scenarios where we've seen the current government globetrotting, literally, going from country to country and talking about the need for people in their nations to come and invest in Zimbabwe. And we have just alluded to that the environment itself is not conducive for even investors to come in. Now, what will the MDC government do should you be placed in government today and we have this pariah state status? What will be the first point of engagement?
Yvonne, I think I also want to come back to answering a question on Zidera. I want Zimbabweans to be very clear. When Zidera came up as a policy in the United States of America, what Zimbabweans should take note of is we have got people in Zimbabwe. We have got diplomatic in Zimbabwe. What is happening in Zimbabwe on a day-to-day basis is open to everybody. So to think that Zidera was imposed by a few personalities, we don't believe in that, because the situation on the ground is there to speak for itself. So when we hear that America put Zidera, we want to correct the notion that some people went to America to ask for sanctions. Nobody went to America to request for sanctions, but it is the environment that is on the ground that has made the Americans to come up, and also these sanctions are targeted sanctions. It's because of the environment that is on the ground, and those people who have been put on the sanctions, I think it's up to them to do a self-introspection and see where they are getting it right and where they are getting it wrong, and acknowledge their mistakes rather than to point fingers at other people that people are asking for sanctions. Nobody is asking for sanctions. My President Chamisa, he loves his country dearly. Honorable Biti loves his country dearly. All they want is to see this country moving forward, being a country which attracts good investors, a country which is talked about in a good way by everybody who visit Zimbabwe. So all is on the ground for people to make their own judgment.
Perception, Honorable Mutinhiri, as you alluded to, they say that the MDC is calling for such measures against the country, and as such, that's why we see there's fuel shortages, there's no cooking oil in the shops, there is absolute chaos in our economy. And the people say the MDC's international relation policy is calling for such.
I totally disagree with that perception. As I've alluded to earlier on, the situation on the ground speaks for itself. The fiscus policy speaks for itself. We don't know how the monies are being managed by ZANU-PF. When we just recently, there was an article in the paper where it was saying from November to June, an amount of total 5 billion was blown out by ZANU-PF. And we don't know where it went to. We wish if they could just give the nation a breakdown of where all this money went to. Because if this money was well budgeted for, we wouldn't be having problems of diesel. We wouldn't be having problems of drugs in the hospitals. We wouldn't be having problems of all sorts of forms in the country. You know, the economy is just gone high wire. The economy is collapsed. So we don't know what the Minister of Finance is doing with whatever the revenue they are collecting every other day. Because we know that the government collects revenue from people, people pay their income taxes, but alas, they don't know where their money is going to. When they go to the hospitals, there are no drugs. When they want diesel, they have to queue for diesel. So it's up to ZANU-PF to tell us where the money, the revenue that is being collected, where it is going to. It is up to ZANU-PF, not MDC. MDC it has got policies that want to enrich every family member. MDC has got policies which will see people going to the pharmacies, going to the hospitals, getting whatever the drugs that they want. We'll see MDC would like to see people just being at a garage, getting their fuel, be it diesel, be it petrol, and get on with their work. Now, the economy, if there is any economy at all, it's stagnant. The little economy that is there, 3/4 of the time people are queuing for fuel. So how can an economy move? So we are saying, as the MDC, we have got the SMART program. We've got all the good programs that a nation can ever think of. And we are engaging with progressive governments who would want to see Zimbabwe prosper, who would want to see children of Zimbabwe going to hospitals and being treated, who would like to see children of Zimbabwe going to schools and receiving good education. So the MDC has got a SMART program. It is unfortunate that the election was stolen. If it had not been stolen, people would be seeing changes as we speak now, and people would begin to appreciate our SMART program.
All right, wonderful. And let's talk about our relationship with other African nations, the AU, the SADC. Do you feel that these institutions, these African institutions, are helping the democracy of Zimbabwe? Are they helping to safeguard democracy, not only in Zimbabwe, but in Africa as a whole? We had a situation in 2008 where we had the SADC brokered dialogue that took place and led to the formation of the inclusive government. And now this election was stolen, as is clear from even ZEC itself admitting that the results are not verifiable and they are not verified. Now, do you feel, as the MDC, that the African Union, the Southern Africa Development Community, has done anything to safeguard the people's will of Zimbabwe?
It is unfortunate that we continue to talk about disputed elections in Zimbabwe. SADC, has it got its guiding principles on the running of elections. The AU has got its guiding principles on the running of elections. But unfortunately, when it comes to Zimbabwe, all these guiding principles are not being observed. And from each election to the next election, the people of Zimbabwe have raised issues with the SADC group, with the AU, that our elections are disputed. And as we speak, we continue to say to SADC and to AU, can you assist Zimbabwe? Can you assist the people of Zimbabwe? Because the situation is now saying it for itself that things are not as expected. They might have endorsed the elections, but what we are seeing on the ground is exactly the opposite of an endorsed election. So we are saying to SADC, as our brothers and sisters, we are Pan-Africanists like everybody else. We respect SADC, we respect the AU. We are calling to them, we are calling out to them to be involved in the issues of Zimbabwe, to come to Zimbabwe, or to send their emissaries to investigate, or even to just investigate from their missions, from their heads of missions in Zimbabwe. I'm sure they will give them a true record and an honest record of what is happening on the ground, which is leading to an unstable environment, which is a cause for concern. Zimbabweans are peace-loving people. Zimbabweans would never want to fight or to go to the streets. But as things there are at the moment, we worry as Zimbabweans, as loving people, peace-loving people of Zimbabwe. We worry as at the rate things are going at the moment with regards to the deteriorating economic situation in our country. So we are saying we respect SADC, we respect AU, and we hope they can hear our cry and come in and assist us, because disputed elections from time to time will not help Zimbabwe as their sister country.
All right, and there's a feeling from people that Zimbabwe is being sold off in pursuit of finding investors. You know, people are talking about shoddy deals that do not benefit Zimbabweans, but rather are benefiting the ruling party ZANU-PF. What is your comment on that?
Yeah, it is difficult to say Zimbabweans have benefited from the so-called mega deals. Since November up to now, we are in October, we have seen so many delegates coming. We have seen on television people signing papers, MOUs, all sorts of agreements, but they have not brought anything to the people, to the ordinary person in Zimbabwe. The banks are still empty. If you go to the bank, if you're lucky in the morning, maybe they give $100 of bond notes. Later in the day, they are giving coins, 10 cents, 20 cents. And it really, it's a reflection of things that are not working well. So we are saying Zimbabwe's situation is going to be revisited and see how best the people of Zimbabwe can be helped. Because as we speak, it is unfortunate, even today, in today's paper, we heard that the hospitals now are becoming morgues. Instead of people going to the hospitals to be helped, people are going to the hospitals to die. It is very unfortunate. And a caring people and a caring government would not allow such a situation.
But the finance minister says no pain, no gain. Zimbabweans have to carry the pain in order to turn around Zimbabwe.
Well, it is unfortunate that the minister of the new minister of finance, he was in Europe and he just come back. I don't think he understands the situation in Zimbabwe. If he had been here in Zimbabwe and understood what was going on in Zimbabwe, he wouldn't be making those remarks, because those remarks are kind of antagonizing people who are already suffering. In fact, they are kind of provocative. They are provoke people who are already suffering, who have nowhere to turn to. Well, people have somewhere to turn to. They can turn to MDC, as they did on the 30th of July. They voted for President Chamisa. They wanted a total overhaul, a complete overhaul of the way things are done in Zimbabwe. And President Chamisa and his party love their country. They respect the liberation struggle, all the norms of a sovereign state, they respect. So we don't know why people continue to steal MDC's vote, because it is an alternative. Like in other countries, if you go to the United Kingdom, there's the Conservative and the Labour. If they go to elections, if Labour wins, they don't argue, they don't steal, they'll let Conservative rule. And their institutions are so strong, they come in to improve people's lives. Even if we go to the Americans, there is the Democratic Party, there is the Republican Party. Each time they go for elections, they respect the winner. And the winner just go on to do the right things for the people, to improve the welfare of the people. And this is what we expect in a modern Zimbabwe. To see when ZANU-PF knows that it has lost elections, it must let go and let the alternative party rule. And make a difference to the children of Zimbabwe, because it is the children of Zimbabwe who have voted. They want a change, they want an alternative, and they are yearning for an alternative. And the alternative is the MDC with the youthful president Chamisa. And it's not surprising that we've got a youthful president. In Canada, we've got a prime minister who is even younger than President Chamisa. In France, we've got a president who is almost a president's age. Coming to Africa, we've got our neighbor here, Botswana. The president is almost the age of our president. He understands the dynamics of life. He understands what the youth requires. And even if you go to Ethiopia, there's a very youthful prime minister. So this is the trend. And we can't, no one can fight, a revolution. Our children now, they prefer a younger person to be their leader who understands their problems. So this stolen election is hurting a lot of people, more of our youth, because the majority of our people in Zimbabwe are the youth. And those are the people who went to vote for President Chamisa. And since 30th July, they had hopes. They had thought jobs are coming, they are going to improve their lives, they are going to begin to be earning their salaries, to have their pensions, to have their medical aid, but all went down the drain, and they are a very angry group of people, and we can understand when we see them being as angry as they are. So we continue to say, this is a disputed election, and the international community, not just SADC and AU alone, we also call out to the international community to hear us, to come in and assist Zimbabwe. Most of our children now, already they've started jumping borders, looking for greener pastures, and we know it's not easy out there for our children, whereas they should be building our economy in Zimbabwe, building what is to be built in Zimbabwe. So we are saying the international community, if there is a role they can play, please, if they could come and assist us in the situation that we are in, not forgetting our brothers, the SADC and the AU. We continue to knock on their doors. Our president has said he's open to dialogue. He said his doors are open to dialogue, his windows are open to dialogue. So we continue to knock on the doors of everybody to come in and rescue the Zimbabwean situation.
In the last few weeks, we have seen the president meeting with a number of international delegations. What is his plea?
President Chamisa's plea is he's a peace-loving president. He would love to see the country moving forward. He is concerned about the stolen election. He would want to lead this country and transform this country using the SMART program, our SMART policy. He wants Zimbabwe to belong to the nations, of developing nations, not of nations which are retrogressive. He wants to head a nation which is progressive. So we are saying, as the MDC, it is unfortunate, but we will continue our president will continue to open his doors and to open his windows for people to hear him, because the people outside there, every day they ask President Chamisa, what are we going to do? Each time President Chamisa walks in the streets, waits in the queue to get diesel, a mob of people come to him and he is being asked questions. What do we do, Mr. President? So we are saying the international community and our brothers in Africa, we hope they will see reason, they will see sense and come to the rescue of Zimbabwe. And our president, when he meets the international community, he's talking about peace. He's talking about the love for Zimbabwe. He's talking about the love for Africa. He loves Africa. He's an African brother. Yes, he's an African Pan-Africanist. He has got his wisdom. He has got his fresh ideas to give Zimbabwe a new beginning.
And what will the MDC's relationship with China be?
China is an emerging economy which no country can ignore. We will engage with China and see how best we can trade with China. We also want to trade with China. No one can ignore the Chinese market. So we also want to trade with China.
In the MDC Smart policy, you talk about having an embassy in Israel.
Yes.
Why is that important for Zimbabwe?
Firstly, it is important because the majority of Zimbabweans are Christians. And you know, our Lord Jesus Christ was born in Bethlehem, in Israel. So the connection between Israel and Zimbabwe, there is a bond because of Christianity. And also, if you do your research, Israel was once a desert, but it turned around its desert to a green belt. And we would also want to trade with Israel because we've got a lot to learn from them. They've got their own economic policies which we can tap into and make Zimbabwe a progressive country.
All right. Local councils, the local government, have had an arrangement where they are twinned with other cities of the world. Why do you feel that is important?
Yeah, twinning is very important. It is so important in the agenda of development, because if you let's give an example of Harare twinning with Munich. Munich, Germany is the first world. If Zimbabwe, Harare twins with Munich, is going to learn a lot from Munich in terms of development, in terms of how they've, they are running their cities, they are running their schools, they are running their hospitals. There's a lot that cities can learn when they are twinned with developed cities.
Isolation. People talk about the MDC advocating for the isolation of Zimbabwe whenever they are at any international forum. What's your comment on that?
I don't believe it. I don't believe that leaders have talked about isolation because it does not gain either them or people of Zimbabwe. What I know is when people go out to talk about the Zimbabwean situation, they are just talking about the things that are happening in Zimbabwe, which nobody can dispute. But maybe when somebody talks about it when they are out of the country, people just want to take an advantage. But honestly, Zimbabweans, let's do a self-introspection and let's not play a blame game when we know that we are not managing our things well. All of us, most of our leaders have traveled. They've seen how other countries are managed, how other economies are managed, how clean other cities are. So to say someone will go and say, put sanctions on Zimbabwe, I think it is wrong to say that. It is wrong. Let's accept our own mistakes and do a self-introspection and make new beginnings. Accept that problems have been made, mistakes have been made, and make a bold stance to correct issues rather than blaming. This blame game will not help anybody. In the process, you are blaming people. The country is going the other way. There's total destruction, there's no development. Once people are talking about other people, we should not be doing that as Zimbabweans. We should be talking about the progress of our country. And our leaders, when they go outside for trips, be it educational or other business trips, they don't talk bad about Zimbabwe. They don't talk about anything that is not happening in Zimbabwe. And people who visit here, visitors, tourists, or even the diplomatic missions who are here, there are people who are living amongst us. If today I'm queuing for bread,
tomorrow I'm queuing for cooking oil.
Exactly. And also, even the people who are in these missions, they are not an exception. They are also going to queue. They are queuing for diesel. They are queuing for bread. They are queuing for medicine. They are queuing for all these things. And then when they report, these are the report problems that are in Zimbabwe, how then can I say a Zimbabwean went to Europe to talk bad about Zimbabwe, when everybody are seeing it for themselves.
Yeah, there are people who actually, give too much power to what some of our leaders can do. Honorable Mutinhiri, there is a cancer in our society, and that is corruption.
Mm-hmm.
And Zimbabwe is not doing so well in terms of Nations Institute business and on the corruption index. How has corruption affected our image on the international platform, and how can the MDC deal with such an issue?
It has really given Zimbabwe a very bad image, because once upon a time Zimbabweans were people who were well respected worldwide. But this cancer of corruption, which is now everywhere, literally everywhere in Zimbabwe, it has really damaged our image. And President Chamisa, in his SMART program, has got benchmarks which is going to put in place to assist him in controlling corruption. Yes.
Honorable Tracy, thank you so much for joining us on Transformation Markers. Join us again next week as we talk about more issues that are affecting Zimbabwe. Indeed, we want to be part of the international community, but unless we correct the challenge of legitimacy, then we will not be able to do that. Zimbabwe will continue to suffer and will continue on a downward trajectory. Join us again on our program next week, and let's continue the discussion. I'm Yvonne, and I do hope you stay blessed. Thank you so much.